This is a recording of tutorial 5 Curves Manipulation. This tutorial is all about curves and how we can handle them, manipulate them based on approximation, interpolation, freeform, and different techniques that we will talk about. To access the workbench that is needed, we are going to go to Shape, and within Shape we're going to click on Digitized Shape Editor. This is going to create for us. So we're gonna go ahead and call it PRT curves V01. So this opens for us the possibility to start the manipulation and creating the curves. So looking into the icons that we have, there is a set of icons that can be used. There are these icons that are relevant to cloud of points to import or to export them. These icons relevant to processing cloud of points, so to activate them, to filter, and so on. This is to align the compass. Finally, this is a set of to create meshes and for filtering and creation tools. And then we have a couple of toolbars. Most importantly, this toolbar that is relevant to scan creation, where we will actually be capable of doing curves projection, planar section if needed, and so on. Also, there is somewhere hidden, and we will take this curves tools that we will need as a toolbar. So this is to create 3D curve, this is to create a curve and mesh, and this is to create a curve from scan. And we will also use this toolbar to perform some analysis. So let's go ahead and get started. So you have been provided a cloud of point. You're going to click on File, or actually you're going to click in here on the import, and then you're going to search by clicking on these 3 points to the folder that you have downloaded. So T05 needed, this is the file. So when you do that, you will see that nothing appears. Make sure to click in here on the format and put all, and you will see the txt, the cloud of point. You click open, and in here you have different options. These options are relevant to the sampling. So if you want to, like if you are importing a cloud of point with millions, you don't really want all of them. So actually you do uh, use the sampling. If you want to change the scaling of what you have, this is something that you can actually do. I'm going to click apply, and then you can see in here the cloud of point that appeared, and I'm going to click OK. So let's go ahead and maximize this to the maximum and see what we have. So we have the cloud of point. It is on this plane, so we can click on this normal to the plane. And in order to see that, for some reason it doesn't want to do it. And we can actually, if you know, like we can manipulate the compass however you want, and you can actually always play around with the views. So the first thing that we want to do is, you can see that the cloud of point is not really clear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click in here and click on the properties, and then go to the properties relevant to the graphic, the feature properties. So we will click and we will select like to have a filled one, and then perhaps we use dark green, we apply. Like this we have, you know what, I don't like dark green. I am going to go ahead and select, leave it at the light green. And like this, it would put for us the cloud of point in a clear manner. If these toolbars are in your way, know that in CATIA you can position them wherever you want. And if you remember last time, we have demonstrated how you can reset CATIA by right-clicking and putting customize and going tools, options, and whatnot. So now that we have the cloud of point, the next step that we want is to filter it. And the filtering happens in this location. So these points are noises that you see them in here. So we want to try to eliminate noises. Now, sometimes some points are very important. So let's say you don't want to So it's very important to highlight where would you get such a thing, a cloud of point. A cloud of point would come from scanning. So you have used a scanner to scan a certain shape, and then you get the cloud of point. So when you do that, you're going to have noises. Noises are things that don't really belong, but the scanning process was not clean, and actually it generated these. So like in here, this is a noise in here, and so on. Now, some other points, let's say this one is very, very important. You might want to click and you want to say, hey, I want to protect this point or so on. So you can select which point you want to protect. So by clicking on the scan and doing it this way. So this is one step to do some elements. For us, what we're going to do is we're going to click on remove. So this is the icon. And then we are going to select the cloud of point that we have at hand. And then in here you have the option. So you can pick, trap, and the different operations. So we're going to click on trap, and it's going to activate for us if we want rectangular, so I can create a regular shape. In our case, what we want is polygonal, because what we want to do is we want to draw it. So we want to draw it, and we want to say, actually I should have clicked outside trap. You know what? I love testing live. So we are creating the trap. So you see the trap in here. I'm gonna double click to end it. And if you did a mistake somewhere, you can move up and down if need be. And I'm gonna click outside the trap and validate the trap and okay. And so you see all the points, all the noises that we've had, they have disappeared. And this is now the cloud of point that we are going to continue with. So the next step is to create a scan on the cloud, which is a first interpolation curve that we can have. So the scan on cloud is this icon in here. This is scan on cloud. So I'm going to click on this one, and then I'm going to start selecting every point until I finish. Now, if in case you don't get every point and then you double click somehow, that's gonna mess up a little bit your time and you might have to recreate that. So this is a little bit the method to create scan on cloud. And as I'm going through it, let me talk as I'm going through it about curves. So curves are, we have three forms. We have interpolation. Interpolation is when you have a set of points like the one that we have, and you force the curve to pass by every point. What happens is creates for you 100% accuracy based on your scan. However, the form might be a little bit rigid. Approximation, you accept that the final curve and the final shape that you have does not correspond, does not pass by all the points that you have scanned. So the trade-off is it's easier for manufacturing. However, it is not, you are losing a little bit on your accuracy. The third one, which is freeform, is what we're going to talk about in a few minutes on this tutorial. So the last one in here, I'm going to double click. So I double clicked and it created my scan on cloud. As you can see, if I go ahead and hide this one, you can see that it's a very like not smooth curve. We don't really like it, but this is a first curve. This is good for us to to demonstrate a little bit the start of this and like to have some kind of shape. But now what we want is we want to actually create a curve from the scan. So there are two icons in here. They are very, very similar, discretized from curve and so on. Don't get confused. This is the one, the curve from scan. So we're going to click on this one and then we're going to select the scan. Now, this is where it is very, very fun to play around, and we're going to demonstrate that. So smoothing is this approximation I've been talking about. So smoothing, so let's say we're gonna explain about this, but let me hit apply for a second. So this is a smoothing with a certain tolerance, 0.1 millimeters, that it tried to do. So with six segments and so on. So this is not really like it, Let's go ahead and play around with this. Let's accept more error. So the more you increase the tolerance, the more error you apply, and look what's going to happen to the curve. Suddenly, you have a curve that is so smooth. It has this error as a maximum error that you can have, but it has a maximum order of 3 and 20 segments. Look what happens when I start increasing the order. As I increase the order, I will start getting closer to the shape. And you can see in here the smoothness that is created. Now, if you decrease the tolerance, this is where you might start having issues, especially if you accept higher order. Then in this case, like it's so I'm gonna come back and say when you choose what, but let's move to interpolation. Interpolation, you don't have anymore an error that you choose, or you don't have anymore the order. The amount of points is going to create the curve that you have. But look at the curve, how similar to this curve from scan that we have, the scan. So it's a trade-off. You want something that is easy to manufacture, but that is smooth, versus you want something that is more rigid. So let's go ahead and select and create. So actually, it would be interesting to see the second order. So that's going to be very linear. I mean, this is basically, and you can actually relax it by changing in here, like not constraining it or having tangency or so on. So let's go ahead and select as it's proposed the fourth order. And let's go ahead and select 6 segments. So this creates this curve. You see the deviation that we have. And now what's going to be interesting is to compare between both of them and analyze them. So before we do that, actually the curve analysis, so to understand like the different curvatures, the different like deviations and whatnot, you can literally click on here and it shows you directly. Now you can pick curvature or radius, which is the inverse to curvature. So basically at every point you're trying to put a circle, and this is describing a little bit here the radius or the curvature. So both of these are very important. Like in some domains you really want to understand some of the differences, and the curvature, or like having inflection points or so on, can have, let's say you're going over this with a roller or so on, that might be indicative of potential defects that can happen. So I'm going to go ahead and click apply and click OK. So this created for us a curve. I'm going to just rename that into approximation just for the fun of it. This is my scan. I am going to create another curve from scan from here, and I'm going to do an interpolation curve, apply, and I'm just going to put in here interpolation. And let's go ahead and change some colors. So the approximation, I'm going to put it in yellowish, and we'll make it thick. So this is our approximation, and the interpolation, I am going to make it in orangey, and let's make it dashed just for, just to be able to, and I'm gonna hide the scan for now. So you can see in here the two curves. Like if you zoom in, you can see in here accuracy versus smoothness. This is what the game is about in this element. Now finally, it would be interesting to do what we call deviation analysis. So you can click on deviation analysis and you can try to reference with respect to each other. So let's say you want to reference from the scan, you're going to measure the approximation curve, and then what we actually do is as simple as click apply, and then it shows us, like for example in here, that's the maximum deviation, and as you're going around between the different points. So in here, this is a deviation analysis, and you can change here, and like say if you wanted like more, like 6 colors, so you can actually do that. You can take a look into the points. You can, in the visualization, you can decide to put thresholds, whatever you want. You can actually minimize the digits and so on. So this shows you a little bit the difference between a approximated curve and an interpolated curve. Now, I said at the start there are three types, and the third type is what we call free form. So basically, I'm going to click on shape and freestyle, and within shape freestyle, you have a so I mean this is the curve that we have. I'm gonna click on my approximation curve. You can click on whatever you want, and you can use this button, which is the control point. So it creates the control points that controls this element. And what you can do is you can actually start changing around if you want with respect to your mesh line. So you can say, like these are different options that you can have, and you can start saying, I want to play with this control point, and you see what's happening here. Actually, Actually, you see the deviation analysis live, and this is something cool. So what you can do is start trying to, like you can increase the points, you can try to increase the point, and you can start trying to adjust the approximation to actually have smoothness, but closer towards the reality of the curve. And the good thing about this is, like for example, right now I have minimized a lot so like it has like 2 millimeters now, and it shows you where it is. So and the moment you fix it, it moves you to the other one that you have. So let's say this is the maximum you accepted. You could have updated your uh, approximation curve. And this is pretty much it. This explains to you how we have done all of these different manipulations, approximation, interpolation, and so on. And what you can do is, if you want, you can try to explore the 3D curves creation by the creation of a 3D curve. So you can click on different icons, and actually there is multiple places where you can get it. You can click in here. This is a 3D curve, and you can so and you would get your 3D curve. Now I want to demonstrate one more thing before I let you go. The creation of the 3D curve. Look at the options that you have one more time. Through points, control points, near points. So in other terms, this is interpolation. This is a control point. This is near point. So this is approximation. So when you can start approximating and so on. So these are the different options. And this wraps up tutorial number 5.